want us to do a group activity.
Oh, okay.
And I'll introduce the activity. So in the time that we've been gone, Mark Zuckerberg has made an announcement that he intends to change the policy of how content is censored and prioritized within the algorithm. And as I'm listening to his conversation, as I'm listening to his announcement, I had a thought. But in order for us to get to that thought, I need y'all to make sure if I'm tripping or not. I heard the announcement, and the first thing I thought was, man, this sounds familiar. This sounds like 1910. This sounds like right after Reconstruction, word to our predictions a second ago. So I wanted to do us a favor. Sweetheart, let's take a quick history lesson. Let's get refreshed on Plessy v. Ferguson. And then I want to watch the Mark Zuckerberg announcement and see if we can actually find some alignment between the two. Because here's what I think has happened. Here's my hypothesis. We haven't been alive for a monumental civil rights case. We've seen Roe v. Wade get torn down, but we haven't been alive to see, gay marriage is a good one though. We haven't been alive to see like the actualization of a black civil rights law being put into action and then tested against society to see how black folks feel. And I feel like this Mark Zuckerberg announcement is that. And I feel that way because when I first studied Plessy versus Ferguson, I was wondering, there had to be some controversy about how this law is going to be enacted. Go ahead, play the video. Let's be aware. Let's get our momentum of memory going.
Hi, I'm Yahuwah Williams. I'm a historian. And here's what you need to know in order to sound smart about Plessy versus Ferguson. The Plessy versus Ferguson case originated with Louisiana's infamous Separate Car Act of 1890. The Separate Car Act required African Americans and whites to sit in segregated compartments on public carriers in Louisiana. People at the time of the Plessy decision actually believed that it was possible to measure the amount of black blood a person had in their body. The plaintiff in the Plessy case, Homer Adolph Plessy, was actually described as 7/8 white. Homer Plessy was arrested after he refused to give up his seat in defiance of the Separate Car Act of 1890. Plessy versus Ferguson is considered an important case because it established the doctrine of separate but equal that allowed states for the first time to legally segregate the races. One of the reasons that Homer Plessy brought suit was because of the difficulty in enforcing segregation in states like Louisiana. Louisiana had a large mixed-race population, making it very difficult to determine where the line could be drawn in terms of separating the races. The doctrine of separate but equal that grew out of Plessy versus Ferguson became the standard for all segregation ordinances after that decision. Despite the Supreme Court's ruling in Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, the first municipality or city to pass a residential segregation ordinance was Baltimore, Maryland in 1910. The Supreme Court's landmark ruling in Brown versus Board of Education in 1954 ultimately was the death knell for the doctrine of separate but equal established in Plessy versus Ferguson. Young people in large numbers came out and joined what became known as the Red Guards. These largely terroristic...
Okay, so now we've had a refresher on Plessy v. Ferguson, and just off the blind reveal, sweetheart, do you see any similarities between Plessy v. Ferguson and Mark Zuckerberg's announcement? Before we even get to the announcement.
Yeah.
You see something? Can you name it yet?
Not quite.
Me either.
Yeah.
But there is something about systemic racism that reinforced segregation and what Mark Zuckerberg said. The best way to find out, let's go through the statement, sweetheart. Now, just keep your finger on the pause button because we're going to go through it. We're going to come back. And I definitely want to hear from the Wake and Bake with BMO Nights. If so far you see any similarities between Plessy v. Ferguson and the censoring of YouTube. Go ahead.
Hey everyone. I want to talk about something important today because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a...
First off, this nigga look black. Am I tripping?
Yeah.
Am I tripping?
Yeah. No, you're not tripping.
I'm not tripping. Like, if his hair could nap up, that'd be a high top, right? Mm-hmm. And he got the chain on, he got the black shirt on. Mm-hmm. All right, keep going.
Voice. I gave a speech at Georgetown 5 years ago about the importance of protecting free expression, and I still believe this today. But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political, but there's also a lot of legitimately bad stuff out there. Drugs, terrorism, child exploitation. These are things that we take very seriously, and I want to make sure that we handle responsibly. So we built a lot of complex...
What you say?
Why do you say drugs first? Like, I don't see a lot of drug use on... I mean, I barely see niggas smoking, but like, as we smoking. But, yeah.
Same, and I also want to target this word political.
Yeah.
What I've just heard Mark Zuckerberg say is that the truth or facts are now being considered political. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna write that down. Keep going.
Systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus.
So there is going to be a return back to what he sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, a neutral understanding of elevating voices.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he said, right? He said, even if we're censoring 1% of posts, that's too much.
Yeah.
We are now, because of the election, we are now in a position where everybody's truth, everybody's free speech should be heard. That's what I heard, right? Mm-hmm. Other than drugs, sex trafficking, and whatever the fuck he just said, crime and whatever shit. Child exploitation, that's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, right? I heard we are now in a tipping point where free speech is at its most critical point. Even if 1% of posts are being censored, we are now in an era of free speech. Mm-hmm. That sounds like equality.
Right.
Keep going.
Right.
Focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop.
In order to elevate everybody's equitable voice, we're going to get rid of fact checkers, which Mark Zuckerberg will tell you it was people in a room checking facts, when in actuality it was an algorithm in a room checking facts.
Yeah.
We're going to get rid of that, and we're going to allow for community notes. Now, I want you, all my Wake and Bake with B1 Nights, I want you to pause your affinity to compare this to X for the moment. We're going to get to that in the post production of this thought, but I want you to stick with the thought of we're going to get rid of fact checkers, because remember, facts can be political. We'll get rid of fact checkers and have community notes. Here's where I start to raise my eyebrow, and I'm like, wait a minute. Do I fuck with segregation? Wait a minute. Hold on. If we're going to get rid of fact checkers, we're going to get rid of this algorithm. This is the same algorithm that when I say black, they consider that political.
Yeah.
So I am part of the censored 1%. Mm-hmm. And here's why I say, I actually agree that facts can be political. And I draw your attention back to my nigga Chad O. Jackson. Remember, me and Chad O. Jackson had the same sources, and yet we came out with two opposite outcomes. One outcome under the previous system would have left me censored.
Yeah.
While in that same system would have had him prioritize same facts, which means that facts can be interpreted to be political. Because if his political analysis is that W.E.B. Du Bois was a racist, get rid of him so we can all live equally under a neutral algorithmic ahistorical fact checker, that seems like positivity, something that should be promoted. While I'm saying W.E.B. Du Bois actually believed in black folks, automatically a political statement. And that all art should be propaganda, again, a political statement. You see what I'm saying here? So if I'm hearing Mark correctly, if we're getting rid of these algorithmic systems and we're not going to censor the 1% and we understand that facts are political, and we're going to, instead of having fact checkers, we're going to have community notes. That's separate but equal, right? Right? Wake and Bake, might help me out now. Am I tripping? Keep playing.
About how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. What started as a movement to be more inclusive has increasingly been used to shut down opinions and shut out people with different ideas, and it's gone too far.
So as excited as I was a second ago about Plessy v. Ferguson, about maybe this being separate but equal, then Mark Zuckerberg says we're going to simplify our content policy so that it is more open. We can talk openly about gender. What do you say? Gender is something the fuck else, right?
Yeah.
And so as he was saying that, before he got to gender, I was like, oh yeah, I can finally talk about black. Wait a minute. When you say open season on gender, you don't mean the people who are pro non-binary gender ideologies. You are not talking about trans folks. Right. You are not talking about queer folks. You're talking about people who want to attack queer folks. You're talking about people who want to attack trans folks. And where you were deprioritizing them, they were also the 1%. Now I'm getting scared. Separate but equal? Wait a minute. Does that mean they can just ride over to our side of town and burn it down? Damn, Reconstruction. Keep going.
So I want to make sure that people can share their beliefs and experiences on our platforms. Third, we're changing how we enforce our policies to reduce the mistakes that account for the vast majority of censorship on our platforms. We used to have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now, we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high-severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action. The problem is that the filters make mistakes, and they take down a lot of content that they shouldn't. So by dialing them back, we're going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. We're also
we are going to dramatically reduce the amount of censorship on our platforms. Here I am back again. You keep playing with Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, separate but equal. This means all my nasty friends, all my people who are in the adult industry, all the individuals who have had their channels stricken and taken and got to put it back up and take it back down, who got to do creative ways to get around showing the adult body to other adults who have already consented to be a part of this page, they should be free range now, right? It should be cool, right? We shouldn't get constant content strikes on the Dirty Magazine side, right? That's what he said, right? As long as it's not illegal, we should be good, right? Or is this, again, just another way to say, oh no, actually, the people who have been censored are the people who are trying to tear down your platforms. And we have been preventing them to do so. Keep going.
We're also going to tune our content filters to require much higher confidence before taking down content. The reality is that this is a trade-off. It means we're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Fourth, we're bringing back civic content. For a while, the community asked to see less politics because it was making people stressed, so we stopped recommending these posts. But it feels like we're in a new era now, and we're starting to get feedback that people want to see this content again. So we're going to start phasing this back into Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
So that's good news, right? If we're bringing back civic content, if I'm in the censored 1%, if I've been affected by political fact, if I have been a part of the simplified content strategy, if I'm not doing anything illegal and they're bringing back civic content, I should be good, right? We should be in a position where we are no longer available. Our reach is only available to the people who have already engaged in our content already. We should be able to engage in the algorithm on a more equal and justified level. Correct? That's what I'm hearing. Let this nigga finish talking.
While working to keep the communities friendly and positive. Fifth, we're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas. As we work to promote free expression, I think that it will help us build trust to do this work in places where there is less concern about the bias of our teams. Finally, we're going to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. The US has the strongest constitutional protections for free expression in the world. Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there. Latin American countries have secret courts that can order companies to quietly take things down. China has censored our apps from even working in the country. The only way that we can push back on this global trend is with the support of the US government. And that's why it's been so difficult over the past 4 years when even the US government has pushed for censorship. By going after us and other American companies, it has emboldened other governments to go even further. But now we have the opportunity to
Get this motherfucker off my show, man. Although I'm on his platform. Get this nigga off my show. I'm fucking done, bro. I'm fucking done. So I'll be honest with you. Can I be honest with you? I was listening to this announcement and also making YouTube stories at the same time. Yeah. We got through points one. We got through the preface, which was acknowledging that there can be political facts and censoring the 1%. We got through point one, which is get rid of the fact checkers and have community notes. We got through simplify content policy. We got through illegal scrutiny, and we got through bring back civic content. When he got there, I put on my story. I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of fucking what's up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of fucking with him. It sounds like he's talking to me. But you know what he said that made me immediately be like, oh, he not talking to me.
Which part?
When he got to, we gonna move to Texas because Texas is less interested in our biases. It made me think about this whole thing differently. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What if I algebra this motherfucker? What if I said, okay, let's take your biases, the ones that you accept that you have, and let's work backwards. You had fact checkers that would filter people's content, whether it was illegal or not. You had complicated content policies that put certain categories, like civic content, into deprioritized situations. And you were also being checked by the state of California to make sure that your biases were not affecting your power, the way that you implement power.
Right.
You mean to tell me California was keeping you from being racist? Is that what I'm reading?
Right.
The reason I'm looking down because I'm literally doing the math because I'm like, okay, if we just work backwards, California was preventing you from being racist, and then the next word you said was Trump. Oh shit, this ain't for me. You want to work on behalf of the United States government? What happened to the Facebook that was the secret society for the Jenna 6 meetup? What happened to the Twitter and the Instagram where you would use hashtags to start a movement? Where communities could find each other without being attacked? Jack, why did you leave us? Tom, what happened? How are we now completely aligned with the U.S. government to bring out free speech, which is actually going to transform into hate speech? And so I wanted to ask the question. I wanted to ask the question. What happened in Plessy versus Ferguson that made some niggas be like, oh, I think segregation would have been good for us? Did they only read the law? Did they only hear the first 4 points of the announcement? Did they not do the algebra and work backwards? Because now when I hear Byron Donald say, oh, we had it better before Jim Crow, we had it better during Jim Crow, it's like, how? Now that I'm seeing it in this context, how?
Right.
So I'd like to apologize. I was wrong. I'm not fucking with Zuck. Although I do believe there will be a slipstream of popularity for this channel and channels like ours, we're about to get stomped out. Because with that exposure, it's going to become exposure. And if striped pants can get a whole demographic to ignore me because I look sassy, what the fuck they going to do when they hear the real shit? That's all I got. What are your thoughts? Am I tripping? Did you do the assignment? Is there an alignment between Plessy v. Ferguson, the moment of segregation, and this moment of decensorship on Meta?
Yeah, I would say so. You're not tripping.
Explain. 250 words or less. That's right. Automatic essay. That's right. You said no. Oh, damn. What did the Wake and Bake Be More Nice thing? We had Carl came on here and he said, but who's going to verify the community notes? Nobody.
Right.
Communities are. Communities are going to verify the community notes. And I think what Meta is saying is they are no longer interested in being facts. Go get your facts elsewhere. This ain't for facts, nigga. This is for expression.
Jordan says, Bimo, I think you're reading between the lines on them correctly.
The best part of waking up is Bimo and the Blood.